from where I started till where I am right now. I was only employed for 9 months. I have a background in biomedical science and technology. When I graduated back in 2007, I was employed in a hardware shop. Of course, I had made applications to be employed in the top research institutions in the country, the likes of ISIPE, the likes of ILRI. But even as I was waiting for my appointment or an interview to get into my dream job, that did not take place. So within 3 months, I had to look for something to do, and I landed myself in a hardware shop. And in the hardware shop, which was a family-owned business, I was only paid 30,000, but I was working 2 jobs. And one of the assignments that I had was to invoice. It was a hardware shop, so if I was not packing vegetables and grocery supplies for a hotel in Manda Bay, that is what one wing of the business was doing, I was busy invoicing. But just as any other person here, we also are very ambitious, and we want to buy a car, we want to save and, buy a home. We have all those dreams. I was reevaluating my life, and I saw with 30,000 fine, I worked for 9 months, but I was only saving 10,000 bob per month. So when I reevaluated, I saw that, well, it would not buy me a car, neither would it buy me a house, but anyway, it was helping me, sustain my bills and everything. So I felt it was about time that I moved on now from, this engagement and explored other opportunities that were there. And I remember from the knowledge that I got from the hardware, it's actually the greatest gift that happened to me, just being able to be around business people, a family-owned business. Learning how you play around with your margins, learning how to run a business. That is the greatest lesson that I learned from that hardware. It is not about the money, I would say, but the lesson that I left this place with. So immediately I left the hardware shop. I went and started supplying. I looked for hotel supplies from Red Court Hotel, and I remember also I got some supply opportunities at the Parkland Sports Club Club. And of course, just like any other person, you're driven, you want to make money, but at times the lessons just hit you as you go. And these institutions, of course, they wanted you to supply and be able to give them 3 months credit. And of course, that time I was not doing any kind of production. So I had to really go and buy this produce from Marikiti, that is Wakulima Market, find a way of cleaning because I did not have a shop, and then again package and deliver in a decent manner because these are hotels. If I told you I would wake up and go to Marikiti at 3 a.m. myself in gumboots, you would not believe, but that is exactly what I was doing. So I did that for a couple of months. Then for 3 months, and knowing I was someone who was only saving 10,000 bob a month. So of course, and these hotels asking me to give them 3 months credit, I could not afford. So I had to look for plan C, because if plan A, B do not work, you move to C. If it's necessary, you get a plan D, E, you have to. So I went to the next plan, which I thought, okay, having seen how this value chain is working, instead of buying from the market and making supplies, how about I go into production myself? Because now then the margins will be much more. I went to production, and think that is what Noah is referring to. Of course, I started with French beans and baby corn for the export market. And of course, the export market was good for a few months until I started getting, the rejects, being told, you have this kind of rejects. We will not take this amount. There's a problem maybe with the orders. The planes are not taking. So I would get a lot of rejects. And when I got these rejects, the local market does not really move a lot of French beans and baby corns because they are mostly for the export market. So I would end up having losses. So I had to look for a crop that was locally acceptable and also would do well. So that is how I settled for a watermelon, the watermelon crop. And of course, when one day I was in the agrovet trying to look for the watermelon seeds, I remember I got myself a mentor from the agrovet, just randomly, someone who was willing to mentor me and teach me how to, how to produce the watermelons, of course, observing good agricultural practices and how I'd maximize. the lesson of, that journey that I'm trying to tell you, this is a journey that has not taken me, it has taken me actually from 2008 when I went to production. It's a journey that took me up to 2014. Just being in production. I'm still in production, but of course, I've now ventured into the likes of livestock and so forth. But even I was in production, and I'll highlight some of the programs that we've developed to be able to, deal with some of these challenges that I, as a young farmer back then, when agriculture was not devolved, when every other person, when you would go back home, they would say you are a failure. That time, it was so wrong to be in the agriculture sector because it was deemed as a sector for failures, people who did not have anything better to do, but we were learned and we were in the sector. So, and I'm thinking that, you must really wake up and defend what you believe in, as long as it's something that is meant for good, and go into it with your full heart and be able to even defend it. Because even these people who are telling me don't farm, go back to Nairobi, look for a job to the village, they are not giving me an alternative. They're not telling me stop doing this and then do this. So at times when even people discourage you from doing something, if they don't have a better alternative, you just stick to your dream as long as it's the right thing to do. So along the way in my production cycle, I realized that young people are reaching out to me, and there are not only young people from my country, Kenya, but also young people across Africa saying they needed to be guided on how to, produce watermelons and the likes. So that led me to documenting everything that I had learned practically in the farm. I documented it in a 34-page manual. I developed a step-by-step instruction to be able to help them, just learn the practical skills and how you manage the crop. But along the way, I realized when a gentleman called Mohammed called me, because I used to have a line for correspondences and also for doing the sales of my produce and so forth. Mohammed called me and Mohammed told me, Anne, I planted tomatoes and it's been 3 weeks now and they've not germinated. And I asked Mohammed, what was the method of propagation? So he said, when the tractor was making furrows in the farm, my farm people came putting the small seeds in the furrows. So just instantly like that, it hit me, Mohammed did not have the very basic knowledge of how you propagate seeds. And this is not something that I can. We are lucky to have the knowledge, and at times we are just unlucky not to have it. So that prompted me on an individual capacity to try and, that time work with government to be able to revive the 4K clubs, because some of these things are very basic and we must really start them when we are young. Back in our days, for those who are as old as me, I don't know whether you are beneficiaries of the 4K clubs, but we used to be taught, small product, how to work in the farm, how we would produce food, and just be introduced to agriculture at a very tender age. So what I'm saying, and referring now to one of the questions that I've been asked to address, is the issue of opportunities along the agricultural value chain. In my production cycle, I realized that I was a producer. And as a producer, I needed so many other services, because at times I can tell you for a fact, when you're in the farm, you barely have any, you barely have any other time to do other things, because you're busy planning, you're busy monitoring the farm, managing it. So along the value chain, you need people who can be able to come up and be able to offer you, even though it's extension support, they can come and be able to offer you, marketing platforms. So if that time I was able to find other youth whom would be able to partner and be able to aggregate together, we would even have a better marketing chance, where we would be able to push our produce and be able to get a better market. That time we did not have things like trucks. We did not have the money to do that as young people. But right now we have loans which are actually there. And one of the things, especially in the marketing space, right now I'm seeing we have a lot of digital, we are able to market our produce digitally. That time, if that support was there, it would have really helped me to be able, to maximize on my business. So just answering one question before I give it back to Noah to moderate the other session, I would want to say that we have a lot of opportunities along the agricultural value chain.